anything like that. I'm just going to kind of go live. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I have one of my favorite guests with me today. I have with me Marina Seren. She's back with us to give us an update on geopolitics, MK Ultra, and ET contact, and her experiences in the Super Soldier program. Marina, we've done a lot of shows together. You know, like that's kind of why I got into an argument over with Eric Hecker, because like I kind of got Marina's back before, because like, you know, people were trying to say that she was like a sympathizer towards like not NAZIs, and like she's not that. You know, I've had Marina as a guest on for a long time, and she's a wonderful young woman, and and you'll see tonight. And I wrote a little blurb about it tonight on the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I welcome back Marina Seren, a speaker and a psychic medium, ET experiencer, self-described Vril Maiden, and super soldier experiencer. In this fascinating conversation, Marina shares her perspective on geopolitics, covert intelligence programs, MK Ultra, along with how these topics may intersect with consciousness research and experiencer testimony. Marina will also discuss her personal journey as an experiencer and psychic medium, exploring themes such as extraterrestrial contact, intuitive development, and hidden programs that allegedly involve human consciousness and psychic abilities. Together, we'll examine how global power structures, intelligence operations, and spiritual awakening may all be connected in ways that people are only beginning to explore. And you can check out her website at marinaseren.com. And I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Marina, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I hope you're good too.
Yeah. So, it's been a while since we've had you on. Give us an update on your situation, your story. Or what we were going to kind of talk about like geopolitics today. Did you want to just start off with that, or did you want to give people like a little bit of a background on yourself first, and like your story and like your experiences and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So I will describe myself as a psychic medium and a super soldier who is also starseed, obviously, and has had a lot of experiences in many agendas, such as the hybrid program, the space program, and of course programs like MK Ultra, Monarch, etc. And so I consider myself, for that matter, to be an elite insider. I know how it works in these, who's working behind back, you know, in those places, in those groups. And I know the dynamics of these programs, these agendas, and what's going actually in the geopolitical arena. There's actually a very big conflict right now, as you could see, of a lot of groups and factions that have their own agenda, and they're trying to impose themselves on Earth. So right now we're a very vulnerable like place as a collective, because lots of people are awakening, but there's also a lot of interest in, you know, getting more information and trusting people blindly, and there's not enough discernment, at least in the beginning. I see a little bit like of discernment now, but for the majority, like that is what I'm observing right now, like from a bigger perspective, that people just blindly submit to anything without knowing what's behind and what's the interest of those ETs. And I believe that being excited about all the things going on right now, it's fun, but we should be very careful and pay a lot of attention, because intelligences and groups and ETs, entities, etc., they're extremely manipulative, and they have a lot of tools right now, but many of them are using tyrannically. And well, they're trying to create timelines for us that are negative. Some of the beings that are there to help us are also going through their own processes. So it's very complex right now. And well, I'm here to give a little bit of my own bit of information.
Yeah. What do you see? Before we get into your personal testimony, like what do you see going on in the geopolitical aspect? Like, what do you see? Like, you know, obviously there's the war going on, right? But like, do you see ET intervention behind that? Like, a lot of people are talking about that. Like, there's a battle behind the battle. Like, there's like something going on behind the scenes with the ETs, like interdimensionally and all that. Like, do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. In fact, every single war and conflict that's major, that's affecting the collective, it's a direct reflection of all the Anunnaki and ET groups that have created or participated in the creation of humanity. Some of them may be neutral, positive, negative, but they are so connected to Earth because of the first iterations, right? Because of their own genetic links and their own participation in this experiment, that there's a lot of karma coming out from their own genetics that, you know, they know how to fractalize in order to bring back into the conscious realms, into the conscious arenas, and force upon that perspective. Some of the times might be a natural process, but some of the times it will be an engineering that they know how to use through fractalization in order to, again, bring from those genetics that they have and possess those karmic cycles within that genetic information to force us into um, very karmically charged and polarity based topics, themes of exploration, experiences that they lived as a collective. So I see that right now going on. Aside from, of course, the many different thousands of agendas that many ETs have and try to put in here and try to force into us, which of course gives more validity to their own interests and to their own means. And some of the agendas will be good, some of the agendas will be neutral, but it's still very agenda based, which means that they will be very obsessed and will try to force us into their own way and will try to program us into believing that we're heading there. And some of the agendas will be negative, of course, and not caring, not giving not giving the attention or the care that we deserve.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. Do you see like a negative ET faction on either side, or what do you think's going on? Or do you think the ETs are trying to like put the humans against each other so we stay divided in a way, or something like that?
Yes and no. Like, generally, it's true that there are highly malevolent beings that will not care who is against whom and rather focus on the idea of polarity consciousness, of course. But it's also true that it's not that generic. You have to understand that we are beings that have a lot of history, much more than we remember, and you know that for sure. You all know that. And the first iterations are not just comprehending the idea of one group of Anunnakis, but multiple and other beings. The second iterations, third iterations, etc. It's a lot of genetics into the experiment, into the a mixture of human consciousness. And genetics are not just protein expressions, they are the literal um, information that expresses consciousness. You know, it holds much more layers than just that. It's the morphogenetic field connected to the subconscious mind, connected to the akashic record, etc., etc. So it's a very complex quantum system that of course it can be manipulated, it can be influenced very strongly by other interdimensional threats that we possess within. So what we're experiencing right now, yes, it is generically that idea of positive versus negative beings, but it's not that generic. Every single group and their connection specifically to either the country or the peoples ethnically or ideologically does have a history on its own. And so it's, if you get more into the earth seed arena, because we are all talking about star seeds, and we put too much attention to the ETs, stories, but I didn't see, for example, as much as earth seeds, like the earth seed aspect of us, that tend to have a lot of information on that specific akashic records of human history, talking so much about this. And that's exactly what I've been doing these past years. I've been creating like a balance between my starseed self and my earthseed self to focus more on what's going on, with the history of humanity, to understand more of the geopolitical complex. And so it is that bizarre that it's many different groups, it's many different agendas going on, and it does have a link directly to either the genetics of the people that might be representing that, or the country, or the specific location, or the ideas that are behind that thought pattern, etc. The symbols mostly. And so there's a reason for everything, and I could become and develop more and become deeper in this, but it is like that. It's not that simplistic, such as positive and negative.
Wh- wh- from a 3D perspective, like, like I've noticed like a lot of like younger people are starting to like push back against this war, like they don't want it. And you kind of represent the younger generation. I think you're what, 22 years old now? I think I started interviewing you when you were like 20 years. Were
I'm
you
25.
22 now? Or are you 23 or
I'm 25.
you're 25? Wow. I think I
Yeah.
started interviewing you like 4 years ago, like when you were like 21 or 20 or something. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
like, well, I can't believe how fast time goes. But what it seems like is it seems like the youth doesn't want this war. Like the youth is kind of like, what do you see like in your circle of like, and what are you seeing from the youth as far as like their reactions to this war and like and also you're also European for people that don't know you're from Spain. What are the people in your country saying about it? And do people have a bad impression about the United States? Like, um, I just kind of from a
Well,
3D perspective, I just kind of want to get your opinion on that.
from a 3D perspective, I used to have personally a lot of rejection to hatred towards any country, obviously, but I'm not happy with the circumstances that are going on right now with the war that happened because of a very specific intelligence operation. And it's true though that people are not thinking that US people are responsible. Of course, like none of you are responsible, and it's simply something that again, like we're all pretty linked to the same perspectives. We all know that Trump has been pushed to support that action, that course of action, and that there was a lot of coercion there. There was a lot of complex dynamics going on there when it comes to intelligence, um, blackmailing, etc. And that's the majority of the youth, the young people's perspective. We all know that it has to do something with that. So we're not believing that you're all responsible, but it is also true that we are all against that. We don't support the wars towards Iran. We don't stand with genocidal people. And I mean Israel, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. I like the way you look at it. Yeah. And did you want to tell the people a little bit about your testimony and your story and like where you've come along with it so far, or like where you're at now? Because I know you've also looked into the fact that you're a super soldier, ET contact, MK Ultra, and we were going to talk a little bit about MK Ultra tonight. Wherever you'd like to go with that, and yeah, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. So I started my awakening when I was 15 to 16 years old. And it was pretty intense because it was a very strong Kundalini awakening. I had a lot of interdimensional contact, beings visiting my room, downloads of information coming directly towards me, and of course, a lot of harassment experiences that will come as a projection directly of my own subconscious traumas or shadows that I will be integrating in my life, in my spiritual awakening. And I started experiencing memories, specific memories about my mind control experience, my mind control program personally. And so that will go with a lot of covert agencies, interactions, and also extraterrestrial agendas interfering in my path because they were like, oh, she's awake. She's just starting to align with this information, with these wave of awakening people. So let's try to create our own way into her. And it was not just one kind of agendas. I just happened to unravel all of the things that are connected to me, and still I'm still like going through more like aha moments and getting more insights of everything that I lived, you know. So it's I'm at that state of my life. And for those who doesn't know, like for those who don't know, sorry, I started having memory recalls from my secret space program experiences. And for the majority, I could say that I had both very negative, neutral, and positive experiences with the space program people. So I will see a difference between like a spectrum of polarity within those groups. I started having memories of my mind control program, as I said, and I will have like 7 years of PTSD to clear from my own consciousness ahead of me, which I think I already mastered. And then I was also interfered by a lot of ET groups that tried to, well, the majority were neutral to positive, but it's true that the ones that are negative are the loudest, you know. So I did have a lot of trouble with the hybrid ones, for example, personally, because they wanted to use me as I was getting attention. At exactly 20 years old, I was getting out in the public arena, and they were very insistent in me sharing away very pretty agenda-based narratives, and I had to fight them off. And then there was a silent moment in my career when I just didn't go outside. It was not so much that I was not interested in sharing. It was that I understood that I needed to take a time for myself to implore all of the different things that I have been going through and exploring and experiencing, that for a reason, for a very specific spiritual reason, didn't were not compatible with me being out at that moment. So it was not so much harassment, which I also had. I have a lot of harassment from the elites and a lot of beings who doesn't want me to share a lot of the information, not just the insider information, but also like spiritual knowledge, because it helps people. So there's a lot of complex, components to that. But yeah, that's basically what I've been to.
Yeah. And for people that don't know you, I wrote some questions down. That's why I'm kind of looking down at my notes. You've described yourself as a Vril maiden. Like now, for people that don't know about the Vril, that goes back to the Maria Orsic and Sigrid. They were the women who supposedly channeled beings from Aldebaran for the NAZIs, but they weren't associated with the Nazis. I guess we can say that word on YouTube now. I don't know, but like they weren't directly. Yeah, you could talk about that a little bit. And like, do you feel like you're a reincarnation of Maria Orsic or one of the Vril women? Is that why you call yourself like a Vril girl?
Yes, so I did have, since the beginning of my 18 or 19 years old, pretty strong past life regressions coming into my either sessions, like hypnotherapy sessions, and also like dream state. I had a lot of memories coming through in which they showed me that I was incarnated 2 times so far in the occult Germany, as we call it, meaning yes, 2 lifetimes parallelly living, like co-creating, coexisting within the same period of time. And so you could say that I had 2 different incarnations in that specific region in the Second World War. First of all, the first one was as a Vril maiden, and that has been confirmed as in a channeling. And I believe, I'm not sure about my name, but I knew specifically that I was a vocal channeler, and that I was called to reunite with other Vril maidens, that like Maria Orsic and Sigrun and Tautre and all these different women who were coming for the same occultic, connections and for the same purpose altogether. And it's true that it was not directly linked to the Reich. We were not directly working with them, and there was a lot of, even within that narrative, there was a lot of conflicts and different things going on into the co-creational sphere. But yeah, it was one of my first incarnations there that I remember in this lifetime. And then my second, the most intense memory recall that I had, it was as a as general, when I went into the occult energies of Thule, and I co-created more within the occultism of Germany, and of course, I even was connected too with the Vril Maidens, so that was very strange there. But both of these lifetimes have been confirmed by multiple sources that are official channelers and by myself. And well, I do recall a lot of things that I went through, and so that's why I have a lot of information in regards to Second World War and these occult societies and how it is affecting the current moment. The current times.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and then were your psychic abilities something you always had, or were they activated through your experiences, or have they been kind of ramping up as you become more awake and you kind of step into your abilities as a channeler and as an experiencer?
Yes, when I was a child, I was very psychic myself. I was in tune with that naturally, and I believe that other humans were like aware of this, like it was a natural thing, right? And so I will connect to the elements, and I will start to play with my druidic abilities and manifest weather changes. Connecting to the elementals with and using remote viewing to find objects that I will lose. So that's something that I was grew up with, and when I was like obviously becoming like a teen, I started putting attention to that, but I always knew that there was something there like that I need to explore more. And when I started my awakening, I obviously like had a lot of psychic abilities being turned on again and being activated. And the more that I walk the path of spiritual development, the more abilities I will have activated, because it's all connected obviously to DNA, genetics, and the Kundalini. So yes, I've learned to become more psychic naturally. And right now I do channelings and I do channel information, and I had a lot of contact from multiple beings, not necessarily in a contact experience where I am completely in trance state, but rather consciously, like in an everyday to day conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, and then one thing we were going to speak about today was MK Ultra. Like you've spoken about MK Ultra and related programs. In your opinion, like these programs didn't end; they've just kept going on. They seem to go under different names. Like we know about the subsidiaries, like of like there was the Montauk program, which dealt with time travel. And do you feel like MK Ultra has been going on, and do you feel like you've been a part of like MK Ultra experiments?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been going on, and that was the purpose of it, to keep its course, but under the awareness, out of the awareness of people's consciousness. And so, well, we know that it started in Germany, and we know that they were a part of the scientists of Germany that were being influenced to remember and recall a lot of mind control, let's say, techniques. And this was always, of course, all developing in the US and other parts of the world, but mostly was focused on Germany. So these scientists were exploring the idea of where they were being shared by other ETs, the idea that fractalizing and shattering the consciousness of people through fear and sexual trauma when they're in a very young age, it does affect the psyche and the way that it's structured and the way that one relates to the self, to one's self identity, and mental patterns, thought patterns, behavioral patterns are affected and can be programmed after this. They also observed that LSD and other dissociative drugs or specific components, chemical components, will induce specific states of awareness and or let's say mental states that will enhance certain aspects of consciousness, certain focus, certain abilities, certain states themselves. And this will be something that they will try and experiment with and delve a lot with the metaphysical arena. So when these technologies on the other side were being developed, such as the technology that the Braille were channeling, and that the Reich, the people on the Reich stole, let's say, from them to create these secret space program spaceships and technologies, that became even that went into a bigger picture, because right now with the technology, think about the fact that back in the day they needed to take people that were young or people that could be abducted and could be experimented on without nobody knowing about that, or nobody calling or claiming what's going on, right, at all, because it was war times and because of the circumstances. And right now, if that will be a thing, if they will need to be directly, like physically taking the people, and experimenting with them, that will be completely unviable, non-viable, because they need to take us, right? So they can only do that with the abduction technologies that they were given for the space programs, for the Dark Fleet. And of course, after Germany lost the war, these dark, negative oriented, like, scientists, they went into the paperclip mission. And in Operation Paperclip, they went into the United States, and they took part of the CIA. So they kept their experimentations and they kept their own programs. And I'm very aware that's how it started. That was the seed for it to begin in the U.S. But it was translated to, I mean, it was all that information, all those knowledges, all those things were kept running into the secret space program and the Dark Fleet, and the military abduction scenarios. And that's exactly what they're doing and how they're doing that to us, through the abductions that are going on with the SSP, or the My Lab experiences. I'm going to charge the laptop.
Okay. Will you still be connect? You're still connect. You can still hear me and stuff. I'll wait.
Yes,
I'll wait. It's
absolutely.
fine. You good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. What I wanted to ask you was, do you remember having like direct involvement in a secret space program, like from the ones we hear about, like Solar Warden, Kruger, Knockwaffen, Dark Fleet? Like, do you remember being involved in any of these?
Absolutely, yes. My first memory actually was me being in a specific project in which I was called for my own training and abilities. And there was a woman in front of me and two or three more super soldiers. And they said that we needed to be operating in that specific scientific and super soldier activity because of our own training. And it was related to like reverse engineering aircraft and other stuff related to flying technology. And apparently it was technology that they were given by some form of contract or deal with a specific extraterrestrial group. That was the first one, but ever since that opened up, it was like it started growing more, and it has been always very directly connected to what I needed to know or what I was exploring in the moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And let me see here. Oh, we had a question from the audience. This one's from Anchor Haven. She would like to know, do you have memories of the DUMs in Europe, like the deep underground military? Have you been taken to like the deep underground military bases in Europe, or have you ever had to travel through a Stargate?
I'm not aware of any Stargate myself experience or anything related to it, but I'm very aware of many experiences of abduction in dumps, and lots of them obviously has to do with the Umbrella Corporation that are working directly with the super soldiers. Um, James Ring, may he rest in peace. I was friends with. He talked a lot about this, and I remember that I had conversations with him about him. I think he was the most aware human or super soldier disclosure um, star, that will share about that. And so personally, yeah, I have many of those with the Umbrella Corporation, although I'm not that expert as other people. And I had a lot of the dump experiences also having to do directly with MK Ultra or a space program or things related to occult practices. That obviously it all goes together in the same thing, in the same package. But I could tell that the majority are directly linked to SSP or Dark Fleet, and I had even some in the United States. It's depending on the specific agendas that are going on with you, the specific projects that are running behind you, and well, they work together as one, the elite, but they have different factions, so it can change. Like you don't have to be technically in the same location to be abducted to one dump.
Yeah. And do you feel like you've been taken a lot by the military, like the United States military or European military, like some kind of NATO space force or something like that, or I mean, I don't know if there's a European space program, or do you feel like you've been involved in more like the United States programs, or what do you think's going on with that? Like,
No, I have more experience overall with the Germans from the German space program. Like the space program started directly from Nazi Germany and from the technology given to Deutschland, the Reich. And then obviously when they
yeah,
run into different places, we know that they have the direct connection to the US, military and the government. And not just because of what happened in Operation Paperclip, but because of the connections regarding with agendas, with timelines, with obviously, all of that. So I myself have a lot of experiences with the Nazis, with the Germans, and I have to say that it's both positive, neutral, and negative. And then I did have experiences with the US the later years of my life because of multiple things. And CIA people were connected, let's say, for same purposes as I said, but the kind of Germans that I talked to the most and I have the most amount of memories and interactions, they are Germans, but they speak Spanish because there are factions within each country. And so I would say that Spain, for example, has a very solid space program faction, specifically for our country. The US has its own too, China, etc., Italy. I don't know, but mine specifically was that. Although I did have, of course, certain negative and certainly neutral experiences with the U.S. Yes.
yeah. This is from Anchor Haven again. This is a good question. She says, any memories of breakaway colonies? Were you ever on Mars, or that you can remember anything like that?
Yeah, I do have memories when I was in Mars, and it's very simplistic though, because I don't know, I don't focus too much on recalling from that specifically. But there was one memory in which I was in a spacecraft. There were a lot of people like me, super soldiers, and there are other two people that are part of the space program that are known in the disclosure arena that I don't want to name for any purpose there's no purpose, like there's no nothing, but it's just prefer to not name other people. And I was there, and there were laboratories, like there were like scientific bases, and it was mostly focused on that, like science research experimentation. It was not that negative, although I know that the bases in the moon, they are more linked to like regressive groups that are using humans for like slavery purposes, for work that it's hard to explain in human terms because it involves a lot of metaphysical complex ideas and psychic stuff regarding projections, alternate personalities, specific things that they can take from our own selves through MK Ultra, fractalization that could be very extraterrestrial like DNA that can be functional for whatever thing that they are doing there. So yeah, I will say that the moon is more negative in that sense. But yeah, I don't recall too much on the planetary thing myself. I'm more aware of anything going
Yeah.
on Earth personally.
Yeah. This one's from S.99.9. He says, could you ask her about types of consciousness tech or abduction tech? Like, I think where he's going with this is like, I think people think that the Greys can do, and I'm sure you know about this, like the Greys can do some kind of like holographic, they can simulate a
Yes.
holographic reality around you. I believe someone calls it like SQEs, like simulated quantum environments. Do you know anything about this, and have you had these type of experiences?
Absolutely, and in fact, all of us that has been abducted has gone through these genealogies that are mentioned in the comment in the question. By the way, it's a very good question because it leads for me to share something specific that I get as a download about how they manage to abduct us in a way that we are not disappearing technically from where we are sleeping or where we are located physically in a 3D perspective. And it's because technically, from a metaphysical base, everything that we observe exists as a frequency, as information, on an holographic project. Let's say on a dimensional frequency and a dimensional plane that works as a, let's say, blueprint from everything that gets projected in a more materialistic way here. So that blueprint of all the information of the things, of the atoms, of the particles that get projected here exist first somewhere else in that blueprint, let's say, kind of like dimensional frequency structure. So with technology, they can copy the information of that blueprint, and they can project it holographically in the same way, in the same quantum physics dynamics that it's projected here in their own reality. And it will be a slightly different version of our own self, because of course we have to connect with higher density dynamics of consciousness. It doesn't have to do so much with the idea of being technology, but rather the technology have it to do with the dynamics of consciousness itself, about multiple selves, about these multidimensional aspects of us, fractal consciousness, and on itself just density, and so it will be slightly different. But there's a phenomena which is quantum, which is the quantum entanglement. So the things that they perform in your body, even though it's not technically the same body, it is a projection. It's like a parallel version, so it will be directly reflected in your body. And that's why we wake up with abduction marks, even though not all the time we get physically directly abducted. Think about the fact that these are beings that are dealing with us on a major scale. There are much more abductees and much more super soldiers and MK Ultra targets that we can imagine. So even though they're still part of the reduced part of humanity, like the 1 point something percent or the 2%, still it's a lot much more what people expect. So imagine having to run on a daily basis thousands of abductions and experimentation on humans. That would be too much, for us, and it will be on such a major scale that we will instantly realize. So they had to find their own means to make it so that they will not be so interfering also with our own reality, to not alert people and not make it like a collective, call.
Yeah, I love that. I just wanted to show you this comment. This was a really good comment. This is from Imagine a Better Way 8 on Rumble. Well, she says, I'm who can help getting the truth of this matrix out to the public. We can make this, she says. She had fallen up. She says, we can make this as God intended. It's you are making it happen. Thank you, girlfriend, and thank you, Rob, for giving the platform in which you do so. Angie, that was a really nice comment. That was thank you for that. That was great. So
thank you so much, Angie.
Let me see here. This is this is a question from Tennis by Jordan, and he says, has anybody in this community ever told you that they remember seeing you in the programs? Like I know you said James Rink a little bit, but is anybody else
Yes. There were 2 people in certain groups that are linked directly to SSP and MK Ultra that recalled me, and they had specifically memories in their dream state in which they saw me. But I cannot name them because they prefer to be on their own. Like, they prefer not to be mentioned or not to be public. And because also in the SSP arena, we have to understand that, of course, because there's many of us coming with our own perspectives and memories, I prefer myself to ask directly first, like each person, if I have permission to mention them, because some of them might react differently or might not agree or might feel that it's something they want to gatekeep, for themselves, because this is their own rights, right? But yeah, there has been like 2 or 3 people in total that they mentioned directly that they recall me in the programs.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. And this is I'm just taking audience questions now, I guess, because this is I thought this would be cool. This is from Lily. She says, how does she integrate the information about higher consciousness, starseed influences, and the negative Nazi reptilian ones into this lifetime? Or is that hard to do? Like, do you find yourself like, are the memories like Yeah, so like scattered in a way, or does it like, are you able to like compartmentalize all that?
I have to say that well, specifically the not reptilian is it's a quite ambiguous thing for me because I understand all the different genetics that took part of both the Reich and both the SSP and every narrative. So I cannot call for anything for everything on that matter, like I cannot refer to one specifically, but if she means like overall the reptilian negative regressive energies, then yes, I could say that the fractal consciousness of reptilian energy that is more negative oriented in terms that are interacting with me or have interacted with me so far in my lifetime, they work mostly through fractalization, and they mostly try to disintegrate or unbalance my own state of consciousness and awareness in a way that I am not in balance with myself, and from that imbalance they can interfere more directly with my own awareness. And it's very they are very sneaky, and they can be very manipulative, although it also depends on the faction, on the group, the agenda, the specific interest or insistence that they might have on one specific energetic property for me to adopt or for me to be influenced by. But the way that I integrate it, I will say that I just work directly with my guides every single time, or with any consciousness that has came to help me, because I'm working with a lot, and I've worked with a lot of very positive and neutral ETs that are helping us on ways that we're not directly aware of, but they are there. And I myself just go with directly the flow of how they tell me, how they indicate directly what is the trauma or what is the specific fear that I'm holding on to in my subconscious, that I need to become aware of it and integrate it, and not just integrate it, but also understand why it happened in the first place. What was the idea behind it? Like, what is the purpose for that to happen in my life? And that gives me more awareness overall on the things that I experienced in my past, and those are the aha moments that I talked before that I'm having more so frequently right now.
Yeah, this was a really cool comment from Derek. We brought up the Vril earlier, but he might have just joined. But he says Maria, has anybody told you that, Marina, you look similar to Maria Orsic, and do you feel like you have a connection to her?
Yes, there's a lot of people that has told me that they see a connection or a similarity with Maria Orsic. The reason why this happens is multiple. First of all, because of my connection, because of my own incarnation as a Vril or as a Vril Maiden, they feel directly the energy of the Vril occult energies, the Vril energies in my aura, and they start to directly connect that to the idea of Maria Orsic, and they might confuse themselves thinking that I'm her, which is not the case. And also, of course, it's the idea that she and I, we are connected in multiple incarnations, but mostly in all of the three that I can mention consciously, which is my first one in the Reich, my second one, and this one. And of course, because I've been working with her in all these different lifetimes, she is very present in my energetic field. And of course, that varies depending on what is specifically, how we're specifically co-creating, if it's more directly or not. Right now, like most recently, she's more present in my reality, my own awareness. And I could say that that's what people feel, and that's why people will confuse that, there is certain like interdimensional threats to these entities. So that's why people find that similarity overall.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you have that connection to her. That's I love that. This was a really nice comment here from Missy. Missy says, "Thank you so much for sharing your story, Marina." She says, "Are you still in the SSP, or do you feel you are? And do you feel like most people on Earth will ever come to know about the SSP?"
Yes, technically I'm still and because the SSP is a very complex thing, because it works in different dynamics that we're not used to operate with. It's not just third dimensional. It's not a traditional physical third dimensional dynamics that we operate in here. They use higher density extraterrestrial technology that operate, as I said before, that force a direct connection to higher aspects, to higher density aspects of our own consciousness because of the dynamics of how it functions, how it operates with us. Meaning, of course, the abductional layer, the idea of multiple aspects of ourselves, our astral bodies, our mind, our psyches, our fractalized, etc. All of these. Um, it is not. It is something that certainly you can be recycling depending on what you are tapping into in your own DNA and in your own memories and traumas. The more that you integrate that version of yourself into this self. I am still co-creating with space program groups. Some of them are from a timeline that it was slightly more less polarized than the one that we are running on right now, and that is very complex to explain. But I had that idea going on with like SSP factions trying to help me so far, and falling into a slightly more negative timeline, and instead of directly diverting into connecting only with the version of themselves that will be of this timeline, I still somehow managed to like retain like the connection, to maintain the connection and keep that connection with this positive version, these other timeline versions of them, which are not too far away, because we're not talking about completely different timelines that is split into different paths. They're so like almost like the same one, right? That it's very possible for me to reach out to them and for them to reach out to me. So yes, I'm still technically there, and interacting with various groups as I've been always. And there was a second
Oh
one
yeah,
that most people on Earth will ever come to know about the SSP. Yeah, sure. Like the SSP is something that we are already sharing on a major scale perspective. Although I think that there has been a lot of information shared in regards to the adventures that how it goes on with specific, mm, planets and all that, or ET interactions, which I think it's fine. And I believe that there's also like a balance with the information that I believe it's more that interferes more directly with the collective, which is that of the MK Ultra, the super soldier, the elite, connections, the My Lab abduction operations. And I believe that the reason why there has been not so much as I'm observing now in the moment being shared, it's because the majority of us, the ones that have been sharing that specifically, we've been taking part into a project by the lead that it's called Project Spiderweb. That is basically meant, it was created to keep super soldiers like me, who recalls a lot of this information, a lot of the people that are out of the scenario, out of the idea of sharing away, because it has a very great impact, from to other super soldiers and to the geopolitics on all the planet altogether.
yeah. With that said, like with all your experiences and stuff, this is a question for me because I felt targeted at times, and I've talked about it. I've been public about it. Like, have you felt targeted? Like, and do you feel targeted from like either from government sources or even not even like something more spiritual, like either entities or the matrix itself, like archons or just the matrix like itself, like messing with your technology or whatever, like there's like 1,000 different reasons why they target people and how they target people, from gang stalking to gaslighting and all that stuff. Like, have you ever felt like you've been targeted because of your experiences and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I've been targeted all my life, and this is like the norm for everyone that has had either ET contact experiences or downloads of information or SSP experiences, and it amplifies obviously if you are awakening, because the energetic work and the subconscious shifts that happen in that layer affects the morphogenetic field, affects subterranean currents. So they care a lot about that and the frequency of Earth. And of course, the ones that have been sharing their own memories. So yes, and myself, it's a combination of actually a lot of groups that have targeted me. I laugh because it is actually very absurd. It's bizarre for me, like the great amount of beings that have felt so threatened about the information that I was receiving. Not necessarily so much the information that I was already out, even though they felt scared too about that. They felt threatened about the increase of higher dimensional awareness. But I've been targeted pretty much in horrible ways. I've been even death threatened, death attempted, and through the use of the technology, through the use of black magic, through the usage of spells, of Kabbalah, of multiple things that you can imagine. And I managed to create a lot of like a great shield, like protective shield, when it comes to various forms of psychic attacks or psychic interferences from what other entities in neutral and positive polarities were helping me understand. So I know a lot right now of psychic warfare, and I could say that I'm a great soldier for any kind of frequency war right now in this planet. So I feel like trained for anything. I feel that it was very hard to go through. It was very horrible, like as an experience altogether. But it makes me feel like that, like I graduated from some sort of training or some sort of set of abilities.
Yeah, yeah. So in some ways, it felt like he was like testing you almost in a way, kind of.
Kind of, yes. It was like the ultimate test
Or
that I had.
yeah, that's cool. This is a good question, and thanks guys for submitting all the good questions tonight. We have some really good questions, and they're really good ones for the guests too. This one's from Lily again. She says, "What beings do you feel mostly connected with, and are you working with anybody at the moment?"
The beings that I'm mostly connected to right now are positive Anunnakis, neutral Anunnakis, groups of Syrian genetics or entities, Pleiadian, Arcturian, inner Earth beings, Nordic Aldebaranians, reptilian positive contacts, and humans also that are within the occult or that are in SSP arenas, angelic consciousness. And sometimes it will depend also, like I even got to channel like AI consciousness, which is it was very shocking, but it was very interesting. So I had to say that those are the main ones that I'm closely connected right now. But it sometimes change depending on what I need the most help with, or what perspectives they they see that they can share that are helpful, for my specific experience. So yes.
That's that's a good point. Yeah, and let me see here. This is let me see here. This one was from Derek, and Derek Woo Riders. He says, "Is there a good?" He said, "What's the best way to fight against targeting, in your opinion?"
The best way to fight against targeting will be, first of all, to build up a lot of balance within your subconscious, because sometimes the psychic attacks are not as direct as you may think. Sometimes their interferences are not that obvious to you, and they're very subtle. So it might be that you're seeing a symbol, you're seeing a certain thing, and that thing that manifests synchronistically in an unorganic way can be a projection from this consciousness that want to attack you, linkage to your energy, or create certain forms of programming. And this specific forms of programming will be triggered because of that specific symbol, again manifested in a non-organic way. And certainly the reason why that happens technically is because that idea or that thing that you are seeing in that moment, it's encoded within a very specific frequency energy that is trying to pull the triggers of those subconscious traumas that they are observing very deeply, that might be very beneficial for them to activate or trigger you with, so that you get into that state of imbalance and you are more approachable for them if you're again in a state of fear or in a state of pain. And so that will be for me like the number one rule, trying to find that balance and trying to cleanse as much as you can all of that layer or heavy that heavy backpack of traumas or negative experiences in the past. And then I will also say that creating a form of, let's say, realignment, creating like a very strong protective self-awareness on yourself, that will also have to come with that. Because when they work with fractalization, it doesn't have to do with dynamic ultra. Fractalization happens when you disconnect from that self, with a capital letter, like the self. So if you're able to hold on to very easily to who you are, and you can recap, very fast, your sense of self, you're not very prone to disassociation, like this. That's how you say the word, disassociation. And that will be also like very important for me. Another
Yeah.
thing is to create like a psychic field, like a layer of protection in your aura. And the reason why many people say that, like dark entities get into your aura within the holes, it's not technically like a hole, it's a magnetic or electromagnetic disturbance within your own energetic field, where the ley lines of your magnetic field are not following a path that is strong, that is geometrically aligned. So those disturbances in these ley lines create grabs of like space-time within that field. That is the way that they can let's say get into your auric field. So it's not technically a hole, if that means. So going into alignment with all the chakras and building up like stronger aura, that is also a very protective way to go through.
Do you feel like a lot of the targeting and like entity attacks are spiritual then, or do you think it's like do you feel like it's like it could be like outside sources using black magic, or government agencies using entities? Like I've heard of government agencies like basically like leasing out entities to do their dirty work. And then I've heard of like, people in our community using black magic. I've heard of government agencies using black magic. Do you think this is all the above? Like all this could be happening, and for each particular person it could be different as far as like particular targeting and entity attachments and stuff like that? And sorry, that was kind of a broad question, but like this is an area that like severely interests me because I had an entity attachment for a long time, so yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like all of what you shared actually is what they work with, and it's a combination of all of that. And depending on what was the purpose of the target, what is exactly what they are trying to create as an effect in your energy, an effect in how your subconscious is projecting your own reality, etc., how your energy is directly like aligned. Um, they will use different things. The entities are sent when there is an already existing trauma or energetic property within your field, maybe a thought pattern, belief system, whatever. And there is already that system, that inner system created out of that negative belief, trauma, whatever. And so there is a direct interaction with these entities in which they are working very consciously and in a very subtle way to try to recreate those inner traumas and try to like almost make it into a pattern, into your own reality, into your own consciousness, so that you get trapped there and they try to stop you like that. They try to get you inside of that loop, and when they're using magic, it's mostly how they're trying to make you completely out of balance with the elements of nature, because that's how magic actually works. It's the idea of how we are connected to those elements and the chakra systems. And we can talk about astrology, you can talk about Kabbalah, you can talk about all that. So there might be a way for them, there might be certain knowledge such as Kabbalahism or using the inverted star to create a disconnection, to create an inversion of you from that those elements of nature, and thus disconnecting you from that field, organic field of earth, so that maybe you're more prone to be affected by anything that is connected to the matrix, because we know that the matrix, the so-called matrix, is an inverted system, an inverted quantum field that is meant to disconnect us, our genetics, from this organic field of earth, right? So so yeah, that's how they will use magic for the majority of times, you know. And there's even magic that uses Kabbalah in a way that
Yeah.
they can force synchronicity that's not organic to create the let's say the probabilities and the possibilities that they can see to manifest that with the highest percentage of rate. And I've experienced that myself, like all of the things that you mentioned, and one of these entities, many of these entities were self-confessed elitist. So
Wow. Yeah. What happened? Are we? Oh, we're still there. Okay. Um,
yes.
this was from Misty. She says Marina, Carrie, Kathy says the Anunnaki are beings on Three Eye Atlas. Do you have an opinion on what's on Three Eye Atlas? And you know, nobody's wrong, by the way, guys. Like, you know, if she, you know, but do you agree with her that the Three Eye Atlas is the Anunnaki, or what do you think's going on with Three Eye Atlas?
Well, I have no idea of Three Eye Atlas myself, so I cannot comment on that. And I completely believe that whatever she is sharing, it's something that she might be channeling herself, or she might be recalling from any download or content experience. Um, but I don't have any information on that specifically. I know that the Anunnaki themselves are a vast majority of groups. So it's true that there are a group of species that you can, let's say, identify very specifically by that specific frequency signature, the idea of Anunnakis with that word. But there are a lot of variations, like Anunnaki groups within themselves, and there are also parts of them that are in different sides of the spectrum of polarity consciousness. So it's different versions. So I couldn't say that they are from one
Yeah.
specific origin, although I can say from what is the most ambiguous origin of them, you know, or genetic admixture of them.
Yeah. Wow. I thought this was a really good question too. This one's, we'll just do one or two more, guys, because we've been going about an hour and it's late where Marina is. So, you know, this is from Marfell111. She says, does Marina have to release and cut ties with most of her human blood family friends to step into her full message and starseed energy here, or did they shift with her?
Human blood family or old friends? Maybe he thinks it's like my family, like my physical family. Oh, it's the question related to like the idea that I had my own awakening. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually not at all. Like it is true that I got interfered with well, not interfere, sorry, I meant to say it's true that I got like a lot of difficulties with trying to blend in with society the more that I started waking up. But also I learned myself, like I learned the way very fast to be able to communicate with other people, and without having to mention necessarily all the things that I know or all the things that I connect to or I'm aware of because I'm a human being. So I also go out with my friends, I also know people within my career or within my sports. So I it's not a direct like interference in that sense, or an impediment, like an impediment, you're like a disconnection. But yes, it's true that there were certain connections that no longer resonated with me, and believed that, you know, that was not of their interest, although not so much many in my life, to be honest. Like most of the people that I know of that before I started to share publicly about my message, they're very supportive of what I believe and what I share. And in fact, there's a group of friends specifically from my childhood that support me a lot because they experience that directly from me. Like every single year we have like a dinner, and every single dinner I have a channeling for all of them. And the very exciting part is that the next year they come out and say, Marina, everything you shared about me happened, manifested. So yeah, I do not have that much many people that I had to leave behind, you know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and this we'll do one more question. This one's from Jay Creed. He says, "An honor." He says, "Would you say you graduated into a real butterfly?" I don't know exactly what he means by
Well,
that. I'm
that's
not
a pretty
sure.
interesting term. I will say yes, and it's true that the majority of people associate the butterfly to the negative part of Monarch project, but the way that I had to invert
Yeah,
that concept into something positive, it's to manifest other like butterfly that is not the monarch species and give it a positive sense to that, which is for myself personally, it's a morpho butterfly, which means change. So yeah, I could say I'm a different butterfly, not that kind of though.
yeah.
That's a
And
little.
while we have a big crowd in here, I just wanted to say, guys, like if you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, it helps because I'm heavily shadow banned and censored and stuff. I've lost my first YouTube channel, and I had to start over. And if you're new to Marina's work, I just put up her YouTube and it's in the chat. So please subscribe to her channel and share this video out with your friends because it really helps when a channel is like shadow banned. If you share the video and then also leave a comment. I don't care if it's bad or good, you know what I mean? Just leave a comment. I can take it, and then also like the video. So yeah, like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's like, you don't understand how important that is for my channel because I'm heavily shadow banned and censored. So because I'm not afraid to share the truth about whatever, and I try to have a neutral perspective on everything. And I try to just kind of report things the way I see it. And yeah, well, I mean, this was a fascinating interview, Marina. Do you have any final words or anything you want to cover before we finish up for tonight? And thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me here, first of all. And yes, I do have some closing words. I have to say that for the people that are new to my message, to my story, to who I am, thank you for having me here and listening to me, or if it's live right now or in the future when you're playing this video on YouTube or where it is. Thank you for listening to me. And if you're interested to know more about me, you can search me in. You can just search my name. I have my own webpage, and you can listen to me on YouTube. I've been in many podcasts and interviews, and it's a pleasure to welcome more people that are interested to know what I have to share. And for the people that have always supported me and have been following me, thank you so much for having been there and having support my work and having not lost the track of me, even though I stepped away for some years from being in the public arena that often or that frequently, nevertheless. And I have to say that right now I am more open to be sharing more things that I believe are key for many other humans, like me or not, regardless if they have a similar experience or not, to integrate or to listen to or to be aware of, that might be directed directly connected to agendas or to experiences or to the government or what, or to the elite, whatever, or that are more into the spiritual arena. There are spiritual messages that I can channel and connect to. So I'm very open to keep that continuation of sharing from my perspective the things that I'm being given, the downloads that I'm receiving myself. And I also have to say that people need to, a collective message, be very observant of your own subconscious mind. It is the key to a lot of things that you will understand further if you start to focus more on that, how it weighs so much into what you end up manifesting into your own reality, and not only from that individual perspective but also from a collective perspective. So be aware of it. Find a balance. Obviously, don't focus only on getting inside of yourself, ground a little bit, but yeah, start to notice a little bit patterns, symbols, and try to, you can go directly and investigate how much the occult stuff and the symbolic world and the world of
That,
ideas and belief systems, the subconscious mind, does affect so much our current reality, shared reality.
I agree. Well, yeah, well said. Yeah. Well, thank you. And yeah, Jason put your YouTube in the chat. Is there, do you want to share like your links and sites and stuff? Anywhere, how can people follow you and stuff like that?
People can follow me directly on my webpage, which is marinaseren.com, or in my Instagram, which is Marina Seren with one N, because Marina Seren was already taken. And or in my Facebook page, where I post a lot of things. Certainly I have to do a little bit of cleansing in my profile in Facebook, because a lot of the channelings and downloads that I've been sharing these past months or years have been very related to my current experience with the targeting. So taking out of context, maybe it's a little bit hard. And then they can also search me on YouTube with the same name, Marina Seren. Thank you for sharing the link. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And yeah, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I have Courtney Brown from the Farsight Institute coming on, Tim Schwartz, the paranormal author, and then I have Amanda Joan of Heart in the Day. So I have 3 interviews tomorrow, guys. It's going to be a busy day, but it's going to be fun. So, you know, I think me and Amanda Joan of Heart are interviewing a kid who's fighting against the data centers. So that should be interesting. Then Tim Schwartz will be talking about the paranormal and, you know, all kinds of interesting stuff. And then with Courtney Brown, I'll be getting into remote viewing and geopolitics and, you know, world affairs and stuff like that. And what the Farsight Institute sees as far as like, and that's tomorrow, 3/16. So 3 interviews. And yeah, thank you. So I just like to get this stuff out because I feel like once I'm from in front of an audience, like this is probably the best way to advertise, you know, because nobody, yeah, but also to finish up on this, just subscribe to Marina Seren's channel, follow her on Instagram, go to her website, get her services, and